Alright fellas, now this upcoming weekend we have the return of Jake Paul, and I know you might be like,
"Oh brother, this guy stinks!"
Yet I think we will be in for fireworks with this one. Of course, we were meant to see Jake Paul and Mike Tyson face off, yet because of Tyson's medical emergency, we will see that one later in the year. Yet for the moment, Jake decided to have a fight in the meanwhile, and that's how we've ended up with this bout. Compared to Jake's last two opponents who are literally human punching bags put there to lose, this is definitely an improvement. Mike Perry, although not a boxer, definitely comes from a world more closer to boxing than many of who Jake has versed prior. So today I want to talk about how we've ended up with this fight, what both fighters will bring, and what should we expect from the bout. So let's get right into it. Jake Paul, of course, is quite a controversial figure in the world of boxing. Love him or hate him, he's ingrained himself making his own niche within the boxing world. Compared to most other influencer boxers, he does take a more serious approach to boxing. Alongside him being American, this has resulted in him being taken more seriously than the others. What usually is his biggest criticism is his choice of opponents. Yet to cut a long story short, Jake, although he talks about wanting to become a world champion, he'll take whatever fight that both makes him the most money and that he has an advantage in. Pretty much every fight except the Tommy Fury fight, you can see this is the case. And even with the Fury fight, I think he thought he had some sort of upper hand. With the Mike Tyson fight being cancelled, we've ended up with the Mike Perry matchup. So just briefly, who is Mike Perry? Perry is known for his aggressive fighting style and knockout power. He has had a dynamic career in combat sports. He first gained recognition in the UFC, where he fought as a welterweight. Perry built a reputation for that striking ability and willingness to engage in a brawl, earning several notable victories and Fight of the Night bonuses. Despite his exciting fighting style, Perry experienced mixed success in the UFC, with a record that reflected both impressive wins and tough losses. In recent years, Perry transitioned from MMA to bare-knuckle boxing, joining the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. He continued to showcase his striking prowess, securing wins and making a name for himself in the bare knuckle scene, and this is where he has risen to his peak popularity after a number of exciting victories. Perry is no stranger though to the influencer scene. He's been trying to place himself in one of these big money fights for years, most recently being the backup for Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis, yet finally he's found himself in the ring against Jake Paul. In talking about the fight itself, first I want to talk about the strengths that each fighter will bring. In terms of Jake, he will of course bring his more significant boxing IQ, his athleticism, and his knockout power. For Perry, his strengths are pretty clear. His standouts which have made him such a success in bare knuckle include his striking power, his aggressiveness, and his durability. In terms of weaknesses, Jake Paul's major flaw is his defensive skills, which have been seen to stagnate over the last couple of years. Versing opponents who are basically human punching bags hasn't allowed him to show his improved skills, and if the openings are still there like they were in the Diaz fights, a few solid punches and it could spell trouble for Paul. While for Mike Perry, his major weakness is that this isn't his sport of choice. Coming from a sport where if one solid punch lands it's good night to a sport where you're versing a far technically superior opponent, his brawling style could be pretty ineffective. While additionally, shots which are more acceptable in bare knuckle could be susceptible to counters in boxing, while additionally, who really knows what his stamina will look like later into the rounds. As long as Paul utilizes his decent boxing fundamentals to keep the smaller Perry at a distance, he should be able to take this easily home. Avoiding those wild exchanges that Perry will attempt to bring and effectively using counters and more pinpoint strikes will pave his path to victory. For Perry, he will have to start aggressively. Using power shots and effectively working to the body could work well for him, while also constantly applying pressure and forcing Jake onto that back foot is essential. Don't be surprised if Perry tries his best to clinch and bring more dirty boxing into the fight. Now, I think there's some important factors to mention in this fight build-up. I think one hugely important factor is this isn't the first time the two have met. A few years ago when Jake first started boxing seriously, they brought in Mike Perry to spar. And in Mike Perry's own words,
"Good job, dude. Kick my ass."
No, it's good, bro. Good work.
that was years ago, and since then Jake has only continued to take his boxing career more seriously and expand upon his skill set. Alongside this, a huge issue with this fight is the weight. Now, Jake usually weighs in around 180, 185, but yet of recently has been bulking up and dipping his toes in the 200-pound limit cruiserweight division. And of course, for the Tyson fight, he was meant to fight at heavyweight and was bulking up for it. Mike Perry, on the other hand, fights around 170, yet has gone as high as 184 against Thiago Alves. Once again, this is another example of Jake Paul fighting the smaller man. This fight is reported to be fought at the cruiserweight division, meaning there'll be a limit of 200 pounds. I think this fight is the perfect choice for Paul. It's a fight which shouldn't be too challenging for him. He's sparred him before and knows what Perry brings. Perry is the best challenger since Tommy, but this is Jake's domain, and I think if Perry comes across with his bare knuckle style, he could find himself in trouble. This fight further legitimizes Paul in the public eye, and Perry is seen as a pretty tough and ruthless character in the ring, so taking a fight with an opponent with that sort of reputation yet having such advantages is really a no-brainer. It puts Paul back in the mouths of the public and should prep him for his upcoming fight against Tyson. And to answer the question, can Mike Perry knock out Jake Paul? It's possible, but I highly doubt it. Now, I want to hear what you think about this upcoming fight and who you think will win. But just quickly, if you've never heard of me before, my name is Cloister and I make boxing videos to help keep you informed, and I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking or subscribing. But anyways, thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.